So guys, we are here for you to answer real estate questions. We're here for you to talk about what's happening in the marketplace over the last week, over the last month, over the last year.
Yeah.
Here to talk about commercial.
Of course.
Rentals, which I don't think we talk about a lot, with a bit of coverage tonight we're going to have on that. And what are you talking about tonight, Mr. Silic?
Well, some residential and also auction clearance rates.
Great.
Yeah, the big A. He stole your one.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, shit.
Simple.
So,
Typical.
Great minds think alike.
So guys, what,
Yeah, let's go with
so
that
what's
one.
happening out there? Deals?
Lots of deals. Plenty of numbers through as well. I'll just take what he said.
What'd you say?
No, then he was like, buy numbers are strong. So, no, so obviously market share as well and number of listings. So over the last 2 months, we've had about an increase of 20%. So we hovered around beginning of January, about 800 listings, and we're back up to 1,000. So
20% more
20%,
stock.
which when you say 800 to 1,000, doesn't sound like a lot, but when 20% more stock. So if buyers are going to 5 properties, that's an extra 1 to choose from. 10, that's an extra 2 to choose from. So if you're selling, your buyers are looking at 20%. They've got 20% more to choose from. So they're being a lot more selective, a lot more. We're seeing a lot more offers. Like at the end of the day, I remember you made a video out probably a year ago.
It's a make an offer market.
Make an offer market. It's free, and I think that's one thing your agent has to push for the buyers to make, especially when there's a little bit of uncertainty in the market or what values are. I'm running a couple auction campaigns at the moment for commercial, and I'm actually seeing buyers wanting to go to auction because auctions are a great way to have the transparency. Good night, Stephen.
Good night, Stephen.
That's a good 16-hour day. He works hard.
Well
He's
done,
here at
Stephen.
4 a.m. 4 a.m. It's a really good way to, just for transparency with pricing. So compared to a couple auction, middle of last year where I had a lot of buyers more fighting to try and buy it before auction because they were worried they're going to get to the auction and it was going to be a bit of a frenzy with 10, 15 registered and they needed to secure it before. I'm actually seeing buyers wanting to go to auction, which is a pretty big transition because anything from 6 months past, no buyer wanted to go to auction.
They almost feel like they're going to have the advantage at the auction, aren't
Yeah.
they?
So I think it's one way we're seeing on the back of clearance rates are now back up to 60%, even in the mid to high 60s, which they dropped to about 50%. Now clearance rates can, what's the big grey thing? Oh,
Yeah, I'm glad we got a new microphone for Lisa Novak.
yeah, and no sound. So
That's great.
so, are we plugged in? Can you hear anything, Lisa? Oh, I can hear.
She can never hear.
Yeah, hearing
Everyone
aids.
else
Just
hears,
turn the
just
hearing
Lisa.
aids up.
It's just Lisa.
It's not hard to say it because she won't hear it. So anywho, back to my talk. So what we're seeing, auction rates, they dropped to as low as 50% and now they're back up to probably mid 60s. But I'm always skeptical about auction rates, but because there's so many ways they can be skewered for any point you're trying to get across. So for example, we knew the market was getting a bit longer and days on market were going to 90 days, where traditionally it was 30 days, you'd set it to auction and it would sell. So auction rates were really high because it was either at auction or before. And now with days on market going to 90, the auction clearance rates don't take into consideration the week or two after it's selling. So when they see really low, it's not always a full transparency of the market, but at least they're back up. So it puts a lot of confidence in some people's eyes.
And the deals that have been done, I've noticed just with the deals in the marketplace that are, what people are buying is just unbelievable value. There's such good value out there. And in the marketplace, and I know I've said it, I think a couple of weeks ago, the people that we're seeing out there are really advanced. They're well funded. Whether it's Lisa Novak's calling. Hey, Lisa.
Yo.
Yes, you've got no sound, so you guys look really good, but you can't hear a word you're saying. Sorry to say.
But I got sound on my phone
Ah,
when I played it.
okay, I can't hear you.
Wait.
I think we look like a bunch of rookies.
Yeah. Come on, there's 2 other people watching. Can you let us know if you?
Hey guys, the other people that are watching,
The other 100 people.
the other 155 people, can you guys just let us know if you can hear anything? Just to do a sound check. 8 o'clock at night. Just write a little.
Don't answer it because I can't hear you.
You're so smart.
Bye.
Bye. Hang on.
Yep.
Yes, can you?
Yep. Thanks,
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Michael. All good. All right. So, so the advanced people in the marketplace, the people that actually can get funding, are the people that are doing really, really well. I think the biggest concern buyers out there have at the moment that we're addressing is, is it the right time to buy? As in, I don't want to buy now, and it's potentially going to be a bit lower later. It's a really good ethos or attitude if you're a short-term investor, but certainly in property, you're a long-term investor. Let's have a look at that graph.
Yeah,
so it sort of puts a bit of a hole in that theory of do I buy now or do I buy in 6 months' time? Because if you're spending 40 grand on stamp duty, if you're spending 20 grand on disposing of the property later on, it's 60 grand of hard-earned money. You don't get in and out of property within 6 months or 12 months anyway.
Yep.
So even if the market did correct any more than it has currently, you're really not going to be that much of a hero. I don't think we're going to see the market going much
Well,
much
put it this way:
more lower.
with those expenses, that's almost on a $700,000 unit. That's almost 10% in selling cost. So to even sell and have a profit, you need the market to go up 30%. Like, you just can't have that short-term view.
Yep. And Michael Edwards is right. Women have selective hearing. We also brought in Michael. You've been very quiet over there, but you've had a very good posture the whole time.
Well, yeah, what I found that's been different is everyone's coming out of the woodwork now to come look. So I'm finding a lot of new buyers are coming out that have just started looking, going, I'm still looking around, and from that stock that's gone up as well, I'm looking at this property, this property, this property. And so with that selection out there, I guess people are hesitant to sort of commit to one particular property. They go, well, but that one has that one has that. And it's almost paralysis by analysis. When you look at too many, you get stuck and you go, well, you can't necessarily have it all when you're looking at property. You're going to tick 9 out of your 10 boxes, but very rarely will you tick 10 out of 10.
Well, that's what I've always said to people as well, especially a lot of the younger buyers. You're either looking for somewhere to live or an investment, and sometimes it's better to just take off the emotional side of it and buy a good property which ticks all the boxes investment-wise, because, as we said, you've got to hold property for 5, 10, 15 years that's what all the successful investors to date that we see commonly, their whole trend is holding property. So if you're buying now, the chances are your situation will not be the same in 5, 10, in 15 years. So take that out of it, of the aspect or the colour of the rooms or something like that, and buy that's on a good yield, set in a good location. It's that old saying, buy the worst house in the best street. Have that ethos when you're looking for property.
And even if you're not an investor, as a homeowner, that's your nest egg. A lot of people, they buy that one property, you're going to hold that for 10, 15 years. For a lot of people, that's their retirement as well. When you downsize that money there, that's for your holiday, that's for not mowing the lawn anymore, buying that fancy car. So if you're going to buy property now and worry about $10,000, $20,000 over the next 6 months, you've got to think more long-term in the total 10, 15, 20-year span of it and how much you can make from that.
All right, we get so many complaints. It's another lady
Every
that's
time.
complained.
Hi, Lou.
International Women's Week last week. Yes.
You went to, what did you go on the Thursday?
On
To
Thursday,
support?
we went to the Northern Beaches Women's Shelter, and at the Northern Beaches Women's Shelter function, there's about a couple of hundred people there. There was men there as well, and it was quite confronting. Going to something like that, and I want to say, as a Northern Beaches person, we don't really get exposed to, I guess, if you are sort of have a wonderful family around you and you're in good mental health, you forget a lot about some of the things you take for granted. So when I was there, guys, listening to that story, and we want to really get behind this over the next 12 months, the Northern Beaches Women's Shelter, Rosie Sullivan invited us in on the event. But I do have to say, guys, if you can put in anything towards something like this, I think it's great. Sometimes when we sponsor things, they're sometimes a bit broader than us. We don't really understand where the money goes, but I thought this was a great charity because it was definitely in need. It was definitely very local, and you definitely know where your money's going. So Northern Beaches Women's Shelter, support it. It's great. It's awesome. We're going to put a link in here as well for you. So, guys, we covered auction clearance rates.
Yes.
We've covered people's reservation in buying and whether that's healthy and where where that's coming from. We've covered a little bit about some apartments and things like that. I think you were talking, Michael, about earlier before we opened up. I think you're talking about the deals out there and the prices out there. So what are you seeing with why would I buy? What are the benefits of buying today as opposed to a year ago, or as opposed to buying in? It's probably a great question. If for the average punter that bought 12 months ago to now to 12 months time, I think one thing we can definitely see is pricing. That's been different in the marketplace. You're probably a bit better buying now. Another thing we're seeing is financing. I think you'll feel
time to deals from when they see the property to when they're actually in a position to exchange has really blown out. Where 6 months ago, 12 months ago, as an agent, you generally didn't even ask them about finance because it was all sorted. It was all good. Now we're seeing a lot of deals fall over. So you got to associate yourself with a great broker, but also it's conditioning the vendor as well. We're not educating the vendor with days on market and having a deal done on a cooling off period. As Michael said previously, there's a lot of buyers and they're seeing a lot of property. So one day they like that property, the next day they're into that property. So if you do have the opportunity to secure a buyer, encourage it to be on the cooling off period, because that's what we're seeing needed.
This is like Dickie. Do you remember Dickie? You don't remember Dickie on Saturday Night Live?
Maybe you.
Michael has a question.
You could have Dickie.
Yeah, this is a good question.
Yeah.
Keep the mic close. Always, Lisa. Would you like to read the question?
Question, Michael, go. Michael, ask Michael.
Yeah. So there are 25 advertised homes in the Manly Daily last Saturday, and over 200 agents on the beaches who are on the beaches. Who's starving, and what do agents do on the weekend now that they have no stock? Well, they're returning their luxury cars back to the dealership for one.
Yep.
Great question. I think it's similar to almost clearance rates, where I think if anyone lives on the Manly Daily, not to have a stab at the Manly Daily, but we always get a lot of complaints about it not being delivered. So I always feel like a lot of people are steering away and finding other avenues to market. But even if you look on a broader scale, there's 1,000 listings on realestate.com and only 1,000, and as you said, there's over 200 agents. So when you know of key agents who are holding 10, 15 listings, there are a lot of agents with no too young. They're too young to remember. There are a lot of agents with no listings. So I think we're going to see a big transition of agents leaving the industry. We've already seen it, and agencies closed down.
Well, 40% transactions, agents are transacting 40% less stock.
Yep.
So if you are running a business and you take out 40% of your volume, that's got to hurt. So yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. And
you can relate that back to how the agent's mindset is. Same for the vendor. So there were a lot of 12 months ago. There were a lot of really, really good marketing agents, marketeers, you could say, where they presented well. They were in the owner's doors. They signed them up for a 20-30 grand marketing campaign and set an auction date, opened the door, and virtually it was sold because the buyers were easily getting funding. There was scarcity in the market, where now we're seeing 90 days on market. And when that property doesn't sell, because auction rates are 50%, 60%, so half the stock's not going back, those agents are going back to the owner going, well, it hasn't sold, I need another 20, 30 grand marketing. They're not getting that funds because they've just paid for it, what they believe. Because a lot of times an agent would be like, this is the cost until you sell, really, because they're expecting it in that marketplace.
27 pages.
27, yeah, it's light.
27 double pages, so 50 pages in there.
Yep.
You know what I reckon? This is probably going to be a bit rude. It's all about digital. I reckon we all love our old-fashioned cars, and they have a necessity, they have a need. But if we want to be really raw about this, and we want to have a good look about where the spend is in the marketplace of time, people's time on digital is out of control. So
We did screen share the other day.
yeah.
I think I beat Lisa with the record.
So just to clarify, we have a competition in the office called Screen Share. So if
Screen
you're in
time.
Screen
Yeah.
time, if you're an Apple user on your phone, you can go into your general settings and you can actually see exactly where you're spending your time when you're actually on your phone. And there's a bit of a competition going between Michael Bergio and Lisa Novak, and it goes a little something like this.
Lisa's previous most time screen was 12 hours, which was a great effort for part-time work. I was able to achieve 14 and a half hours. Today's not that good because we're away. 14 hours. So if you're looking where your clients are spending, we've also got to look what we're doing ourselves. We're always on our phone. We're looking at Netflix. We're looking at not Netflix. We're looking at Facebook, Instagram, and realestate.com on our devices.
I'm right. I just need you to open it, that's all. I'm going to show people screen time. So people are going to show you what we're talking about at screen time. And we're going to take it back to what I was... where is it? So, screen time. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you go into your settings and you look at Michael's screen time, there'll be some websites that you shouldn't go onto as children.
Where's yours? Mine's...
Michael's phone.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, there we go, guys. Okay, last 7 days. So there's screen time. That's what we're talking about. Now, as an example, Michael Berger's screen time, he would spend as a highly transactional real estate agent, very successful real estate agent.
Michael Bergio.
Michael Bergio. He would spend his time, his top 3 things that he spent time on. I'm being honest with you, they are there. Social, so messaging platforms, so between WhatsApp, between mail, between SMS, and between Instagram, and then shortly following after that is phone calls, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So my point with digital, and going straight back to Michael Edwards' comment, it's localized media. It's directional purely on the people that you know they are. It's on demand, so it starts shaping itself around the customers. Marty Wong, thank you very much. So can we take this win thing off? There you go. Is that better? There you go. I just took the fluffiness off. So yeah, I think it's absolutely huge. And what we should all keep an eye out for is, as real estate agents, is where the eyeballs are in the marketplace. So I think clearly you can see, you just can have a look at your phone, look at screen time, where the eyeballs are, they're on the bloody phone. We can access you as real estate agents very easily on your bloody phone, through social media avenues, through LinkedIn. LinkedIn's been an unbelievable monster for us.
On the commercial market, it's phenomenal.
It's incredible. We had, like, to give you an idea, we put a video up on Facebook that had on LinkedIn that had 25,000 views, unsponsored. So it's great. It's really good marketing. So I think your agent Michael Edwards, again, thank you for bringing it up. But when you got 25 pages through here, 50, or each side of the page is 50 pages. Like this was probably sitting at this time, maybe 3 years ago, close to 200 pages. I think you've got to have a really good, long, hard think in business to thrive in business about being in front of people. So your agent that you're selecting, and I think that to make sure they get traction, to make sure they get the best price, to make sure they understand their marketplace. Their marketplace isn't the letterboxes anymore. Their marketplace is the eyeballs in that area, the people that are consuming. So, and their marketplace is not going to the letterbox to empty the letterbox out anymore. They're actually going to their phone to empty their Facebook scroll out or their LinkedIn scroll out. Now, again, what's even scary for me is where's it going to go next? Yep. So what's after the consumption of social media? Is realestate.com potentially going to be a very old business model over the next 3 years? Yeah. It's bloody incredible.
And I think also, just even for the public perception, if you're not, like, we understand where that spend goes, but you look at for your average Joe's just sitting at home who monitors but doesn't monitor real estate. They see in the media 50% clearance rates, and then they see the Manly Daily pretty empty. It's like, it's got to be pretty confusing out there on what the heck is going on. So, and then you've got all the Royal Commission and all that. So I can find, I always encourage people to get out there, take portals. There's plenty of agents out there who'd love to give, they all love to talk. So there's plenty who would love to give the advice and just give clarity so you can invest. Because you're right, it's pretty confusing about there.
Well, also what you'll find is there was what we're doing not too long ago with the Google advertising as well. If you're a vendor, you can spend $1,000 and you can guarantee 1 million eyeballs on your property. How could you do that with a Manly Daily with letterbox drops?
Can't even guarantee it gets there.
Yeah, so it's just absolutely phenomenal. The amount of people that you can reach, and so easily as well. You design the marketing, you put all that design into it, and it goes out to all those people with a click of a finger. There's nothing else that can reach that amount of people, and also targeted people. You can have it so if you'll spend, let's say you're looking for a property and you spend 3 hours on realestate.com looking at a property each night. A lot of people wouldn't. They might even just spend an hour, but you're going to spend twice the amount of time on Facebook, and then that ad pops up on your Facebook. Yep. And you go, oh, I saw that property on realestate.com and it's on my Facebook. And it's all those touch points, and that's why probably those properties are the most successful at selling, because someone that is genuinely looking will see it everywhere they look, and that's probably the one that they'll go to. And they won't even know it. You won't know that that's the reason why you're buying that property. They'll be the one you go to because it's been plastered everywhere, all over your social media.
Just like we say, for an agent to sort of for an agent to have a prospective seller or a buyer to really contact them, you almost need the 3 touch points. It may be that drop, it may be social media, it may be it just sold. So I think it's now going to that market where it's going to be the exact same. We said it before, there's 20% more properties. There's 200 more properties for buyers to choose from just on the northern beaches. So you need to be marketing your property at least 20% more. And while I've got you on social media, we have an auction on Thursday night, 218 Harbord Road, freestanding industrial property, sitting on 765 square metres, holding income. Harbord Road is probably arguably one of the best industrial streets, because we all know the traffic that builds up there. It's just as busy as Pittwater Road with the exposure. So to have, if you've got a showroom business...
Clearway though.
Yeah, exactly. So when the whole point of the clearways is, yes, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of properties on Pittwater Road, but the planning when we went to the meeting is they wanting to put a lot more traffic on side streets. So previously, those little cafes that are sort of tucked off the side where you can park out the front, they're going to be in hot commodity, like a building in Gondola I've got for sale as well, where a lot of people said it's not on the main road, comparing it to other properties on Pittwater Road. But when you realise customers are not going to be able to park on Pittwater Road, then it's going to put the pressure. Well, it's going to create a different transition, just like Manly Corso when they deleted the parking in the middle there, where the clan was. Yeah. It's all transitioning. I remember looking at a photo.
Another thing as well as thinking of from before when we're talking about the market conditions is now a good time to buy land.
Question.
We're going to save that question for next week.
No, Sort of off a talk we said previously, it all depends what the land's for. If it's land banking, what's the purpose of the land? Are you saying like Narrowena house?
Like, should I buy a knockdown house in a spot that I like, or should I buy just the raw land itself?
Yep. The answer would be you should have watched our talk 3 weeks ago. Thank you. Because the whole transition was... You're seeing buying a block of land, say for $1 million, you're getting killed with land tax. Like I think there's a lot of people out there at the moment will be getting their new land tax values, and it would have been doubled. So to spend $1 million,
Land tax. That's a dirty word. That's going to be the dirty
Naughty.
word we'll say for next week as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So in short, would be $1 million. You got no rental return. We're not going to see much capital growth in the next 2 to 3 years. So you now need to look at other ways to make money out of property, and tax is a good way. Spending money on the property so you can get a tax depreciation with your tax return. Another way is it being positively geared, and also incentives by the government, which are buying brand new properties, which they encourage you to buy brand new properties. So over the next 2-3 years, helping builders. So I think in simple way, if you achieve capital growth in the next year or two, great, but look at it. That property's got to make you money over the next couple of years in other avenues. Now that's probably the quickest way to answer it. That's how I'd look at it, because that same $1 million, you can buy a brand new apartment, you get depreciation. A lot of them are positively geared, because we're seeing a transition in the rental market. The rental, there was a sort of internal saying where it's like a professional renter. And their standards are very, very high at the moment with service from agents, which we get a lot of strong feedback from, and also the quality of properties, especially in DY. Traditionally, DY had a lot of as we always said, yes, we've had a lot of 600 new apartments in the process or being built, but before that, the 8,500 we had, that's all we've had for 40 years. So a lot of old properties are in DY, and a lot of owners don't necessarily put the investment back into their property that they probably should. That's made them, say, $500,000. And now with these new developments that have opened, tenants are seeing the quality, seeing what they can rent. They're positively geared. We're having tenants break leases in older properties to rent new properties. So I think that really shows that $1 million, put it in a brand new property, you got the positively geared depreciation.
Yeah, so look, guys, next week we're going to have a talk about, I think there's some good stuff that's come out of tonight as well, land tax.
What about us, Clinton?
Hey, Clinton, how are you, legend? Mr. Marty Wong. And so next week, land tax is a big, boring yawn, but it is killing people at the moment.
And
it is bananas.
And what to watch out for as well, just a bit of a teaser, because we were with a solicitor the other day and we saw it was an email that went out where it was from a law firm saying you want to challenge your land tax bill or something along those lines. We'll give you a warning about that. So if you've received that, tune in next week.
On that.
Yeah.
And rentals. We're going to have a chat about that next week, because if you're a tenant in the Northern Beaches, there's some bloody good news for you that's been happening in the last 6 months. We're going to talk about that. And have a great night, guys. Hope we helped you. Sorry about the sound. We tried something different. It did not work.
Well, it's working now, isn't it? You can hear.
I think it is.
It's a bit louder now.
Love you guys.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. Cheers.